You can complain or you can change, but you can't do both. Every time you complain, you trade your power for a moment of comfort. And that moment, it solves nothing. It just keeps you stuck, spinning in circles while life moves forward without you. This isn't just a mindset video. It's a mental reset. In the next 40 minutes, we're going deep into why complaining ruins your mindset, how it silently rewires your brain for negativity, and what to do when your inner voice starts pulling you down. You'll learn how to break the habit of complaining, how to train your mind to stay calm, and how to shift from complaining to taking control. No fluff, no lectures, just clarity, action, and results. This is the Stoic path to emotional control, a discipline built not on fantasy, but on hard truth. Nobody cares about your problems more than you do. That's not cold. It's empowering. So today, you stop playing victim, you stop blaming, and you start building, because you have work to do, and the world doesn't wait. If you're ready to stop the spiral, focus on yourself, and take full accountability, this video is your turning point. Tap like if this already speaks to you. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because this channel is built for people like you, those who choose discipline over distraction, purpose over pity. Now breathe. It starts now. 1. Complaining is not a strategy. It's emotional procrastination. You don't need another excuse. What you need is a mirror. And when you look into it, you need to stop lying to yourself. The truth? Complaining is not a strategy. It's emotional procrastination disguised as self-expression. It feels like you're doing something, but you're not. You're just stalling. Every time you rant about your job, your girlfriend, your boss, your bad luck, you're not solving anything. You're escaping. You're choosing the illusion of control over actual control. And deep down, you know it. Why does this matter? Because the longer you stay in the loop of complaining, the more powerless you become. You trade your ability to act for the temporary comfort of being a victim. And in that trade, you lose your discipline, your focus, your fire. The world doesn't reward noise, it rewards clarity, action, and results. Let's anchor this with a real-life example. Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with ALS at 21. Doctors gave him 2 years to live. He lost control over nearly every muscle in his body, couldn't walk, couldn't speak without a machine. But he didn't waste time asking, "Why me?" He didn't scream at the sky. Instead, he focused his entire mind on understanding the universe. While most people complain about slow Wi-Fi, he was redefining black holes. That's what power looks like. Not loud, not bitter, focused. Your circumstances are never the problem. Your reaction to your circumstances is. That's Stoic philosophy in action. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Complaining is a reaction of weakness. It gives your pain a voice but strips you of your power. Every word you speak becomes a signal to your subconscious. And when your mouth constantly says, "This sucks," your mind stops looking for solutions. The science backs it up. Complaining repeatedly strengthens neural pathways in your brain associated with negativity. The more you do it, the better your brain becomes at detecting problems, not possibilities. You train yourself to focus on what's wrong, even when nothing is. Even when life gives you a break, you're already bracing for the next disaster. That's not realism. That's a self-imposed prison. Here's the shift. Stop ranting. Start reflecting. The next time something frustrates you, traffic, rejection, your own lack of progress, don't vent. Don't dump it on your partner or your friends. Ask yourself, what can I control right now? That one question will break the loop. That one shift will save you hours, even years of emotional waste. Start small. Replace the daily complaint with a daily check-in. Wake up, and before you speak, ask, am I focusing on the problem or the next step? When someone pisses you off, instead of unloading, go silent for a beat and think, is this worth my mental bandwidth? Most of the time, it's not. Don't let noise rent space in your mind. You're not a trash bin for life's annoyances. You're a builder. And your energy should go into building, not breaking down. And yes, this takes discipline. Mental discipline. The kind forged in silence. The kind built in small moments when you want to complain, but choose not to. That's where your strength grows. That's where your identity shifts. From a man who reacts to a man who responds. From someone who vents to someone who executes. Remember this. Complaining gives the illusion of movement, but it's just stillness in disguise. You stay in the same place, bitter, drained, stuck, while convincing yourself you're doing something useful. But results don't come from noise. They come from clarity. They come from action. They come from doing the hard, silent work while others whine about how unfair everything is. If you want to separate yourself from the average man, here's the simplest way to start. Never open your mouth to complain again. Replace every complaint with a question. Replace every rant with a response. Your life will shift faster than you can imagine. And when the urge comes, because it will, take a breath, shut your mouth, and get back to work. You don't owe your emotions the microphone. You owe your future, your focus. So the next time you're tempted to complain, stop. Ask, what would the man I want to become do right now? Then do that, in silence, with strength. 2 silent complaints are the most dangerous. When was the last time you caught yourself complaining? Not out loud, but inside your own mind. Here's a brutal truth most men ignore. Your loudest complaints are the ones no one hears. They don't come out through your mouth. They live inside your head. Whispered, constant, deadly. That's what makes them dangerous. You might look calm on the outside, go to work, hit the gym, hang out with friends, but inside, you're in a mental war zone, and the enemy is disguised as your own voice. You know the voice. This is unfair. Why do they have it easier? I'll never catch a break. It doesn't scream, it mutters, but it mutters all day. And what starts as passing thoughts becomes a fixed identity. You stop seeing opportunity. You stop taking risks. You stop believing you're in control. This is how the most capable men become mentally paralyzed. Not because the world beats them down, but because they believe the quiet lies they tell themselves. That's why this topic is more than important. It's urgent. Because if you don't take control of your inner dialogue, it takes control of you. And no level of external silence will ever fix internal noise. As the Stoics teach us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The battlefield is within. And if you're not actively commanding your inner world, you've already lost. Now let's get tactical. What exactly is a silent complaint? It's the story you repeat inside. Every time you compare your journey to someone else's, every time you replay past mistakes, every time you focus on your limits instead of your leverage. These aren't just thoughts. They're mental conditioning. And left unchecked, they program your self-image to shrink. Robin Sharma, author of The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, lived this spiral. On the surface, he was winning, a successful litigation lawyer, respected, well-paid. But inside, he was miserable, anxious, empty. The pressure, the perfectionism, the constant internal voice saying this isn't enough, it crushed him. He didn't collapse because the world failed him. He collapsed because his internal conversation was never questioned. Until one day, he stopped. He turned inward. He didn't try to silence the voice. He learned to lead it. That's your challenge now. To stop letting your inner monologue run wild and start training your mind to speak with intention. It starts with awareness. You can't interrupt what you don't notice. So today, pay attention. The moment you hear that inner voice start spiraling, pause. Don't argue with it. Don't suppress it. Just ask, is this voice making me stronger or smaller? If it's not pushing you forward, it doesn't deserve airtime. Cut it off. Replace it. Next, develop a power phrase. One sentence, direct. Repeatable, something that shifts your energy instantly. It might be, I don't complain, I convert. Or what's the next move? Or stay locked in. Your phrase doesn't need to sound deep, it needs to work. It's your internal reset button when the negative loop begins. Then, reframe the core story. If your default thought is, I never catch a break, flip it. Every setback sharpens my edge. If it's there ahead of me, say instead, my timing is different, my focus is stronger. You're not lying to yourself. You're leading yourself. Just like a soldier trains for real war by rehearsing the right response, you train your mind for life by choosing better self-talk. Why does this matter to Stoic philosophy? Because Stoicism isn't about being emotionless. It's about emotional control. It's about clarity under pressure. A Stoic doesn't deny pain. He doesn't let pain speak louder than truth. He doesn't complain about the storm. He navigates it with a steady mind. And let's be real, most men today are more emotionally reactive than ever. They confuse venting with vulnerability, as if spilling pain equals strength. But strength isn't in expression, it's in direction. What are you doing with that pain? If you're just talking to yourself in circles, you're not healing, you're rehearsing weakness. So here's your mission. For the next 24 hours, catch every silent complaint. Write them down, all of them. Then rewrite each one with power, with discipline, with responsibility. At first, it'll feel forced. It should. You're rewiring years of mental conditioning. But with time, it gets faster, sharper, natural. That's when you stop being at war with your mind and start commanding it like a weapon. One last thing. Don't mistake external silence for internal peace. Plenty of men keep quiet but burn up inside. What you need is mastery over the quiet conversation, because that's where the real war is fought and won. 3. Triggers shape your complaint habit. The men who don't constantly complain aren't lucky. They're trained. They've learned one hard truth most people ignore. You are not mad at life. You are reacting to your own unresolved patterns. That irritation you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic, when your partner says the wrong thing, when things don't go your way, it's not about them. It's about you. More specifically, it's about the trigger inside you that got pulled. And here's the catch. If you don't find and disarm that trigger, you'll keep pulling it yourself. Again and again. Then blame everyone else for the explosions. This is why recognizing your emotional triggers is non-negotiable if you want to break the habit of complaining and build true mental discipline. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't change what you don't understand. Most men are walking around like loaded weapons, full of repressed frustration, shame, and fear. And the smallest thing lights the fuse. Not because life is unfair, but because they've never been taught how to trace pain back to its source. This is where Stoic philosophy hits hard. Musonius Rufus, a lesser-known but powerful Roman teacher, told his students not to blame external chaos, but to study the internal cause of every reaction. Every time you feel anger, disappointment, jealousy, he challenges them to ask, what wound inside me just got touched? That's the work. That's where the real reset begins. And this idea isn't just ancient. Dr. Gabor Mate, one of the world's leading experts on trauma and addiction, says the same thing. Every negative behavior is an adaptation to pain. Your trigger isn't a weakness, it's a message. But if you never listen to it, if you just complain and explode, then you're choosing emotional blindness over accountability. You're just numbing the fire instead of learning where the smoke comes from. Let's get brutally practical. What are your triggers? For some men, it's the feeling of being ignored because they were overlooked as kids. For others, it's losing control because they were raised in chaos. Some are triggered by failure because they are only loved when they achieve something. None of this makes you broken. It makes you human. But if you don't own it, it owns you. Now, let's bring this back to your complaints. You're not complaining because of your boss. You're complaining because deep down, you feel unappreciated. And you haven't learned how to self-validate. You're not complaining because someone canceled on you. You're complaining because you tie your worth to how others treat you. You're not complaining because you failed. You're complaining because you still think failure defines you instead of refines you. This is where most men get stuck. They try to use discipline as a hammer to crush triggers instead of understanding them. That's not strength. That's suppression. Real power is when you see the trigger, feel the heat rise, and stay calm anyway. When you respond instead of react, when you breathe instead of break. That's the kind of mental clarity Stoicism trained you for. And it starts with one question. Is this reaction about now or about something older? Here's how to start taking back control today. Step 1. Track the pattern. Pick one complaint that keeps coming up in your life and trace it. When does it happen? What does it feel like? What thoughts rush in first? Don't judge, just write it out. Step 2, name the emotion behind it. It's not just annoyed. Is it rejection, shame, helplessness? Clarity comes when you get specific. Step 3, dissect the root. Ask, where have I felt this before? Go back, dig, find the wound. Step 4, design a pattern interrupt. Something to break the loop. A phrase, a breath, a movement. Something simple that tells your brain, we don't spiral here anymore. That's the daily work. It's not sexy. It won't impress Instagram, but it will liberate you. And here's the thing. Once you start doing this, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see how other people are ruled by their triggers. You'll stop taking their reactions personally. You'll stay calm when others explode. You'll walk into rooms and feel unshakable, not because you're better, but because you're clear. Because the man who controls his triggers controls his mind, and the man who controls his mind doesn't need to complain, he just gets to work. 4. Pattern interrupts help you regain power. You don't need more motivation. You need a way to interrupt the chaos in your mind before it spirals. That's where real strength begins, not in bursts of energy, but in moments of control. You don't rise when things are calm. You rise when everything inside you wants to explode, and you choose to pause. Because let's be honest, when was the last time losing your temper ever fixed anything? When has venting, snapping, shouting, slamming doors, or even silent resentment actually moved your life forward? It doesn't. You already know that. And yet, you still let it happen. Why? Because you don't have a system. You don't have a reset mechanism. And without it, you will always be a slave to your first reaction. This is where pattern interrupts come in. It's not a philosophy for the bookshelf. It's mental warfare on the battlefield of everyday life. A pattern interrupt is a trained response, a deliberate disruption of your emotional default setting. You feel the anger coming. You feel the urge to complain, to blame, to fall back into the same old story. But instead of following the script, you cut the feed. You take back control. This idea isn't new. Marcus Aurelius, commander of the Roman Empire, Stoic to the bone, used his journal not as a diary, but as a weapon. He'd write reminders to himself: stop, observe, return to reason. That wasn't poetry. It was protocol. He knew that 1 second of clarity, mid-emotion, could change the course of a decision, a day, a war. If the most powerful man in the world needed a personal reset button, so do you. So how do you do it? It starts by recognizing the pattern. Most men don't. They're too busy reacting, too caught up in the moment to even notice it's a loop. But once you see the loop, once you know the exact sequence that leads you from trigger to tantrum, you can begin to reprogram it. Say traffic jams make you snap. You know the pattern. Late day, long line, someone cuts you off, tension spikes, and next thing you know, your whole mood tanks. Or maybe it's a passive-aggressive comment from your partner. You shut down. You go cold. But deep inside, resentment builds. It happens the same way. Every time. And every time, you let it run the script. That's what we interrupt. The first tool? A power phrase. Short, sharp, yours. It might be, pause, don't play the old game, or calm is my edge, or we don't go backward here. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it hits you like a punch to the chest. You say it, you stop the spiral. You rewire the moment. Next, move your body. Physiology affects psychology. When the mental storm brews, change your state. Walk out of the room, stretch your fists, and splash cold water on your face. Break the tension with motion. This isn't self-help fluff. This is a neurological reset. You interrupt the chemical cocktail flooding your body and tell your nervous system, we're not doing this dance today. And then you breathe. Not for peace, for control. A controlled breath, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, drops cortisol and boosts clarity. You want your mind back? Get your breath under control first. That's what separates men who destroy relationships in one moment and men who hold the line. Over time, these interrupts turn from effort into instinct. The brain builds new patterns. You train it like you train your body. Reps, resistance, recovery. This is what mental discipline looks like in real life. Not screaming affirmations in the mirror, not suppressing anger until it explodes. It's the quiet, deliberate habit of choosing response over reaction, again and again until it becomes who you are. And yes, it's hard, especially at first. You'll forget, you'll mess up. But if you care about who you're becoming, you'll get back on the mat. Because every time you interrupt that old loop, you break a piece of it. You weaken its grip. You show your mind who's in charge. Imagine if your worst moments didn't control your day. Imagine handling disrespect without being rattled. Imagine getting hit with rejection or delays or bad news and staying composed, focused, and effective. That's what happens when you install a pattern interrupt. You stop being a puppet pulled by emotion and start becoming a general who commands it. The world doesn't need more tough guys who yell louder. It needs men who lead themselves, who stays calm when others fold, who pauses when others panic. That doesn't make you soft. It makes you sharp, controlled, dangerous. That's a real strength. And it starts with a choice you'll make in the next moment. something pisses you off. Will you react like you always do, or will you stop, say your phrase, and rewrite the story? Because the man who controls the pause controls the outcome. Every time. 5. Complaining affects your energy and relationships. Negativity spreads faster than logic. It doesn't need volume to be contagious, just presence. And in a world overloaded with reactivity, even one man's unresolved bitterness can poison an entire room. A sigh, a glare, a sarcastic line dropped at the wrong moment. It spreads fast. The energy changes. People pick up on it, match it, feed it. That's how environments deteriorate, how momentum dies, how trust quietly disappears. But here's the thing. The men who stay grounded, who refuse to mirror that chaos, who don't give in to the bait, don't just survive the moment, they take control of it. Their composure speaks louder than complaints ever could. They don't compete for noise, they set the tone. You can feel it when one of those men enters the space. He doesn't say much, he doesn't need to. Because grounded men carry a kind of stillness that cuts through drama. Their discipline shows up in silence, in how they hold eye contact, in the way they don't react to nonsense. They're calm, not because life is easy, but because they don't let outside noise control their inner frequency. And that matters more than most men realize. Because energy isn't neutral. You're either lifting the room or weighing it down. There is no middle. You're either giving others permission to stay focused, or you're giving them a reason to spiral. And the truth is, most men who complain believe they're just getting it off their chest. But what they're really doing is leaking instability, polluting their environment, and damaging the very relationships they rely on. This is why some men, smart, talented, capable men, never get promoted, never hold influence, never become leaders. Not because they lack skill, but because they bring the emotional weight of someone always under siege. They lead with bitterness. They walk into meetings heavily. They project pressure instead of purpose. And no one follows that. People avoid it. They nod politely, but they're already backing away. Seneca didn't speak in metaphors when he wrote, "The wise man looks for solutions. The fool looks for someone to blame." He was calling out the exact thing modern men still fall into, the trap of deflection. If you're constantly pointing at what's wrong, constantly shifting responsibility away from yourself, you're not strong, you're noisy, and noise doesn't build respect. Responsibility does. Let's bring it home. Picture yourself at work. You're in a room of guys and one of them always vents about the boss, the schedule, the clients. Maybe it's subtle, a scoff, a quick complaint, but over time, it builds. People stop inviting him into decisions. He's now the guy they have to deal with, not the guy they rely on. Why? Because he's shown everyone that his emotions lead him, not the mission, not the solution, not the team. Or picture your home. You walk in after a long day. You're tired. Your fuse is short. You're not yelling, but you're radiating stress. Your tone is short, your face is tense, and your presence is heavy. You think you're hiding it. You're not. That energy reaches everyone. Your partner, your kids, they feel it. And slowly the warmth fades. Connection breaks. And still you think, I didn't say anything wrong. But you didn't need to. Your energy spoke for you. Now flip the script. Imagine being the man who doesn't bring weight, but brings clarity. Imagine being the one who walks into the room and instantly grounds it, who keeps his voice steady under pressure, who listens first, who doesn't flinch when others spiral. That's not a weakness. That's trained control. That's a man people trust without even understanding why. Because in a storm, people don't look for noise. They look for anchor. How do you get there? One word: gratitude. Not wishful thinking, not forced smiles, but tactical, disciplined gratitude. The kind that rewires your brain to focus on opportunity instead of offense. Every morning, track 3 specific things that are working. They can be small. I showed up on time, I didn't snap when I wanted to, I kept my promise. This isn't just mindset training, it's mental armor. It guards your attention from drifting into complaint mode. Over time, this practice changes what your brain filters for. You start seeing the path forward instead of the roadblocks. You notice people's efforts, not just their flaws. And more importantly, you become the kind of man who others want around. Not out of obligation, but out of instinct. So ask yourself this: what's the energy you carry? Do people feel more focused after talking to you or more drained? Are you the weight or the anchor? Because whether you realize it or not, your presence has a price. Someone is either paying for your negativity or benefiting from your strength. You get to decide which one it is, every single day. 6. Focus on purposeful goals, not empty achievements. A man with a hollow goal is a man one setback away from quitting. That's why so many guys start with fire and end in frustration. They want to make more money, get in shape, and build something great, but they can't tell you why. So the moment it gets hard, boring, or slow, they fold. They fall back. And when they do, they start complaining about time, about pressure, about life not giving them a break. But the problem isn't the effort. The problem is there's no meaning behind it. A goal without meaning is like a compass without a needle. You move, but you're lost. You grind, but there's no fuel. And eventually, your willpower runs out. Because willpower is not designed to replace purpose. Purpose sustains you when nothing else does. It gives weight to your actions, structure to your chaos, and direction to your pain. This is where Simon Sinek's work cuts deep. In Start With Why, he explains that people don't burn out because they're doing too much. They burn out because they've lost sight of what it's for. You're not tired because you work hard. You're tired because you're working without a vision. No clarity, no direction, just motion. You hustle all day, but when the results don't show fast enough, you fall back into complaints, blaming the economy, your childhood, the algorithm. Everything but the fact that you don't know where the hell you're going. This is why Epictetus said, if you don't know where you're going, every wind is against you. If your life has no why, then everything feels like resistance. And worse, you can't even tell if you're making progress. So every inconvenience feels like a failure. Every delay feels like proof you're not good enough. That's how the complaining starts. That's how it spreads. But when you do have a clear, meaningful goal, it changes everything. You don't just wake up, you rise. You move with intention. Obstacles don't rattle you, they refine you. And instead of whining when life punches you in the mouth, you adjust. Because now, you're not just working hard, you're working towards something. Let's bring this to ground level. Ask yourself right now, what's your current goal? Is it vague? Is it borrowed from someone else? Is it based on ego or fear or guilt? Then it's not real. It's not strong enough to hold you. And that means when pressure shows up, and it always does, you'll collapse. You need to define your goal by purpose, not just metrics. Not, I want a six-pack. Why? Because I want to respect my body like I respect my word. Not, I want more money. Why? Because I want to create freedom for my future family. Not, I want to build a business. Why? Because I want to live on my terms and teach others how to do the same. When your why is honest, specific, and connected to your values, something shifts. Complaining doesn't feel like a release anymore. It feels like betrayal. You don't want to waste energy on negativity, because every ounce of focus matters now. You're not working for applause. You're working for alignment. So how do you get that clarity? Start here. Write down your current top 3 goals, and beneath each, write why it matters. Go deep. Strip away the surface. If your answer feels vague, go deeper. If it's all about proving others wrong, dig again. You'll know you're close when your reason makes you emotional, when it hits something real. Then every Sunday, check in. Ask, what did I move forward this week? What did I avoid? What frustrated me and why? What needs to change? That's not busy work. That's self-leadership. You track your mission like a man in combat tracks his position, with precision and no excuses. Because in the absence of a defined mission, comfort will always win. And comfort leads straight back to complaining. About how tired you are, how unfair it is, how nothing ever works out. But if you're honest, that's not life failing you. That's you avoiding the responsibility of defining your path. So define it, own it, and let that purpose burn through every excuse you've ever used to stall your momentum. Because when you know exactly what you're here to build and why it matters, you stop complaining and you start commanding. You stop doubting and you start doing. That's the difference between a man who moves with noise and a man who moves with power. 7. Practice gratitude to rewire your brain. You can't complain and be grateful at the same time. Your brain only chooses one. So every moment you spend focusing on what's missing is a moment you've chosen not to focus on what's working. It's not just a mindset issue. It's a neurological one. The brain cannot operate in survival and gratitude modes simultaneously. And that's exactly why gratitude is not about being soft or spiritual. It's about reclaiming control of your mental state before your default settings take you under. Most men underestimate the power of attention. Not because they don't have it, but because they've never trained it. If you wake up and immediately focus on what you lack, time, money, respect, progress, your brain starts filtering your entire day through that lens. You scroll social media, and instead of feeling inspired, you fall behind. You look at your partner, and instead of seeing the connection, you notice their flaws. You walk into work already carrying the energy of complaint before anyone says a word. Not because life is broken, but because your lens is. This is where the practice of Stoic gratitude becomes a weapon. Not a feel-good ritual, not blind optimism, a discipline. A mental strategy to pull your attention back into alignment with power. Because the man who can control what he focuses on, especially in chaos, controls his emotional state, his energy, and his outcomes. The Stoics understood this. They never taught gratitude as passive acceptance. They taught it as resistance to entitlement. Marcus Aurelius in Meditations didn't write about how perfect life was. He wrote about disease, betrayal, exhaustion, and reminded himself daily to be grateful anyway. Why? Because he knew the brain, left unchecked, drifts toward bitterness, and that bitterness erodes judgment. Gratitude was the tool to stay sharp. Modern neuroscience backs it up. Gratitude practiced daily activates the brain's reward center, boosting dopamine and serotonin while reducing cortisol. It strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for discipline, long-term thinking, and emotional regulation. In short, gratitude isn't about feeling better. It's about becoming better. And it's a choice you make every day. Especially when things suck. Especially when you're tired. Especially when the results haven't arrived. That's when most men slip. And that's where you double down. Because when your environment gives you every reason to spiral and you choose stillness instead, you've just proven who's in charge. Here's how to make it practical. Drop the vague, half-hearted, "I'm thankful for my health" list. That's empty. That's autopilot. Instead, use specificity as your weapon. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for and why they matter. Don't just say, "I'm grateful for my friend." Say, "I'm grateful Jason texted me today when I didn't feel like talking to anyone. It reminded me I'm not alone." Don't just say, "I'm grateful for my job." Say, "I'm grateful I was able to solve that fire at work without losing my cool. It shows I'm leveling up." That small difference, it rewires your brain. It builds mental muscle. And when done consistently, it shifts your default setting from what's wrong to what's real. Most men never do this work. They'd rather stay angry than get clear. They feed on frustration because it feels powerful. But here's the truth. Complaining might give you momentum, but it's momentum toward burnout, not breakthrough. Gratitude, done right, gives you power without pressure, energy without ego, focus without fear. So next time you catch yourself starting to spiral, pause. Don't numb it. Don't vent it. Just ask, what is still working in my life that I've been too blind to notice? Then write it down. Lock it in. Use it as ammunition against the negativity your brain wants to lean on. Because the most dangerous thing about complaining isn't that it drains your energy. It's that it trains your brain to make negativity feel normal. And the fastest way to break that cycle is not through denial, but through discipline. Through deliberate gratitude backed by action. You don't need a perfect life to feel powerful. You need perspective. And the man who builds that perspective daily, even in the dark, becomes unshakable. So don't wait for peace to show up. Build it. With your focus. With your attention, with the way you train your mind every day to spot strength instead of pain. Gratitude isn't a feeling, it's a skill, it's a system, and it's your edge. 8. Embrace challenges with a growth mindset. A man with a growth mindset sees hardship as a gym, not a prison. He doesn't get locked in by failure, he gets stronger inside it. While others crumble and complain, he studies the pressure, leans into the resistance, and asks the only question that matters. What is this building in me? That's the difference between the ones who rise and the ones who rot. It's not an obstacle. It's the lens. And if your default response to adversity is to whine, spiral, or escape, it's not the world that's holding you back. It's your mindset. A fixed mindset says, this shouldn't be happening. A growth mindset says, good, let's go. That shift is everything. Because challenges aren't optional. They don't care how you feel, but how you interpret them, that's yours to own. You can see them as unfair, overwhelming, or personal, or you can see them as training, testing, necessary. And once you do that, the complaining starts to feel childish. Because now you're using every failure like fuel. This is where Stoicism hits hardest. The ancient warriors didn't beg for comfort. They didn't pray for ease. They trained to remain calm under fire, not by avoiding pain, but by embracing it as feedback. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He didn't say it because it sounded good on a scroll. He said it because he lived it. While leading an empire under siege, while watching his friends betray him, while burying children, he used every challenge as a forge for mental clarity. Most modern men haven't even stepped into that arena. They crumble at traffic, panic at deadlines, and spiral when a plan falls through. Not because they're weak, but because they've never trained. They've never framed adversity as a gift. And that mindset, the "this shouldn't be happening to me" mindset, is what keeps them stuck in the cycle of complaining, blaming, and quitting. But here's what the growth-minded man does differently. He doesn't expect ease. He expects adaptation. When plans fall apart, he doesn't lose his fire. He sharpens it. He studies the pattern, extracts the lesson, and adjusts his method. Every failure becomes data. Every delay becomes a rep. Every punch becomes part of the program. Let's get tactical. When something hits you, a rejection, a breakdown, a mistake, pause. Don't vent. Don't run. Ask 3 questions. What is this trying to teach me? What's still in my control? How can I move forward even by 1 inch? That's your framework. Reframe, respond, reflect. It keeps you in motion without letting your emotions lead the mission. Real men don't avoid challenges. They seek it. Not because they're masochists, but because they know growth never shows up in comfort. If you're not being stretched, you're not being shaped. Think of any man you admire, in business and life, in history, and you'll find this pattern. Difficulty introduced, mindset tested, strength revealed. There is no shortcut. Look at Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL commander, discipline freak, unshakable under fire. The man doesn't flinch. Why? Because he doesn't label obstacles as setbacks. He labels them as opportunities to lead. His favorite word is good. Why? Missed your flight? Good. More time to think. Lost a client? Good. Time to improve your offer. Relationship ended? Good. Time to get stronger. That's not a delusion, that's a mental discipline at war with victimhood. Do you want to stop complaining? Then stop expecting life to make sense before you move. Get clear on this. It's supposed to be hard. The pressure is part of the process. The challenge isn't a punishment. It's your invitation to evolve. And the moment you see that clearly, the need to complain disappears. Because now you're not asking, why me? You're asking, what's next? So the next time life punches you, don't flinch. Don't rant. Don't retreat. Do what warriors do. Get still, get clear, and keep moving. With calm, with purpose, with fire. Because you weren't built for safety. You were built to endure, adapt, and lead. And when others break down around you, you'll be the man who doesn't. Not because things are easier for you, but because you trained differently. You saw pain as a process. You saw the delay as direction. You saw every challenge as your arena, and you chose to stay in the fight. You see it now, don't you? The man with a growth mindset doesn't need to complain. He's too busy turning every failure into fuel. In the end, what separates a man who thrives from a man who crumbles isn't talent, luck, or status. It's the mindset he trains daily. The inner muscle of discipline, emotional control, and purpose. What you've just heard isn't a motivational speech. It's a strategy, a real-world guide for men who are ready to stop complaining, stop waiting, and start building a life they can respect. We've uncovered how complaining is not just noise. It's a habit that rewires your mind for weakness. We expose the silent loops of internal negativity, the triggers that hijack your behavior, and how untrained reactions shape your reality. You've seen how pattern interruptions can break emotional spirals, how gratitude can reframe pain into progress, and how meaningful goals give your discipline a direction. And most importantly, you now understand that growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from deliberate, daily confrontation with challenge. The Stoics weren't just philosophers, they were tacticians of the human mind. They didn't theorize about strength, they lived it. Now it's your turn. Start today. Choose one habit, one complaint, one trigger, one moment of frustration, and use it as training. Practice the pause. Speak your power phrase, write your gratitude, reclaim your direction. These aren't abstract ideas, they're actions, and they will rewire how you see the world and how the world responds to you. If this message spoke to you, I encourage you to share your story in the comments. Tell us where you've been, what you've struggled with, and what you're choosing to change. You never know who you'll inspire by simply being honest. Every day you delay this work, you reinforce what's holding you back. But every day you practice, even a little, you prove you are not your excuses. You are your discipline. Let's build that life, one focused thought at a time.